Thank you for testifying today, Mr. Quarles. Last week, the House passed the Volcker Rule Regulatory Harmonization Act, which would exclude community banks from compliance with the Volcker Rule by exempting banks under $10 billion with limited trading activity. Does the Federal Reserve support exempting community banks from the Volcker Rule?
Yeah, I think if that's a decision that Congress makes, I think that would be entirely appropriate.
Okay, so you would support the, okay. Does the Federal Reserve believe the Volcker Rule is an appropriate or necessary response to the financial crisis, or do you think we needed to tailor it back a little bit?
So I do think that certainly the way that we have implemented the Volcker Rule, and that's less on Congress's fault than the regulators' fault, has been excessively burdensome. Probably the scope of the Volcker Rule limits our ability to really focus on what the Volcker Rule was trying to get at. I think that it does limit our ability to respond.
Would the Federal Reserve support other changes to the Volcker Rule, such as what we talked about, maybe even expanding the range of banks that are exempt from the rule, or even repealing it altogether?
Yeah, in terms of supporting them, I think that those are decisions for Congress to make, and if Congress makes them, we would have no difficulty implementing them. I don't think that doing that, obviously everything depends on the scope of particular proposals, but I don't think that doing that would create any risk to the safety and soundness of the financial system at all.
Okay, so it almost sounds like you don't really have an opinion about it. You're just saying we're going to take direction from Congress, whether it's repealed or not. I just want to get kind of some expertise and experience. Would you support expanding the range of banks that are exempt, or just leaving
yes,
it?
I don't think that doing that would create any sort of financial stability risk at all.
Okay. We're also learning more and more about the other unintended consequences with the rule. One that has come up has to do with non-financial companies that own depositories, such as ILCs or unitary thrifts. As the Volcker provision is drafted, if a non-financial company owns a depository, the Volcker requirements apply to all their operations, even those not engaged in any financial services. This means that non-financial companies' ability to carry out some basic risk management could be seriously impacted. Do you believe that the intent of the Volcker provision was to apply it to the non-financial affiliates of an industrial company that owns a depository?
I'm not sure whether that's whether that was the intent of the provision, but it may be what the statute says. That's among the issues that we have to deal with in the current statutory language of the Volcker Rule.
Okay. The health and the viability of industrial banking sector is something that's really important to me. As a representative from Utah, I can attest to the importance of our ILCs, the vitality of our state's economy, the size and strength and diversity of our state's banking sector, even to the health of our nonprofits, which benefit not just from the financial contributions, but also the intellectual capital that they are able to draw from their colleagues in the banking sector. It was a big loss to our state when GE decided to give up their banking charter due to the current regulatory environment, including the Volcker Rule. I would just be really interested in your thoughts regarding industrial bank sectors. Have you had a chance to review the safety and soundness records of the ILCs at all?
As a citizen of Utah, I'm very familiar with them, it hasn't been and I'm familiar with all of the facts that you cite, and they're all true and meaningful. It hasn't been a project at the Federal Reserve up to now to kind of consider our regulatory system and how that applies to the ILCs, but I am very aware of the importance of the issues that you're stating and the importance of the ILCs.
You would agree that ILCs have been a stable source of capital in our communities, even during the financial crisis?
Yeah, that certainly was my experience, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back the rest of my time.
The gentlewoman.